Welcome. This is your professor Kent Schwitkus, and we're going to be learning about the solar system in Astronomy 20 this semester. Basically, this class is in the first 4 weeks very similar to any other astronomy class that's out there, stars and galaxies or astronomy in totality. As a beginning class. The first 4 weeks we're going to be talking about, discussing, hopefully, how we know what we know. And then we're going to be applying those experimental techniques, and basically how we know what we know, to those objects of interest to us. And so in this class we're going to be interested in the solar system, and this will include the question of whether or not there is life besides that which we see around us. Now, hopefully you will learn that just the life around here is very interesting as well. So those are in a grandiose sort of way, the topics that we're interested in. So let's get to the logistics of the issue here of taking the class. You're expected to spend time reviewing the material, looking at the book that's been assigned, chapter by chapter, as indicated in the syllabus. Now, there are some, we'll be getting into the syllabus a little bit later and going through it piece by piece, but the idea I have in mind is to offer you the ability to produce work, not necessarily of excellent quality, because you're not an expert yet in this field. So you can make up for any deviations from perfection by producing more quality of effort, okay? Spending more time in this activity. Now, El Camino expects you to spend at least 2 hours outside of a lecture class, for every hour of lecture. Now, since we are an online class, there aren't really a definitive definition of what a lecture is. But since this is a 3-credit unit class, then you're expected to put in about, about 9 hours per week for this class. So don't shortchange yourself. In my mind, if you spend 9 hours learning something new, that means that you're probably on an average sort of thing. So if you want to spend, if you are spending that amount of time, then you might be getting a C in the class. If you spend more time, then you'll be probably earning something better. Now, if you spend less time, then obviously you can't expect a very good grade. Okay. Now, I hope that you want to get a good grade in this class. Now, one of the interesting things I've learned in my life is 2 heads are better than 1. Now, even though we're an online class, that does not mean that you can do this on your own. I will be online doing the chat sort of thing for several hours on Mondays and Fridays. That's what I've scheduled so far. And something on the order of about 7 hours. Now, I'm typically am online quite frequently besides that, so sending an email is probably a good way of getting a hold of me. Now, mind you, you see all this accoutrements of my life around here. You see the bicycle behind me, you see some naps of Joshua Tree right here, and you see this t-shirt that I'm on actually a ski patrol. So I spend a lot of time in the mountains, and I want to get away from the city during the weekends. So it would be rather difficult to get a hold of me during the weekend. But sending an email is the best way to go. At some time in the future, maybe I'll have something connected up with eTudes where you can send me a text message, even during the weekends. But typically when I'm in the mountains, I am not connected to any sort of electronic connection. Phones don't work at the base station at Snow Valley, although they do work up at the top station. But at any rate, there's Monday through Friday. All right, that being said, The next topic is to make sure that you are conversant and speaking with your co-learners in the class. I don't claim to know everything, first of all, and I don't claim to be perfect. So it's important to make sure to get other opinions about what I am saying, whether or not I'm right or wrong. It is my hope that I will be providing you facts and data and the logic that create theories to back them up. It is my intent that I will be giving you the theoretical basis for astronomy and for critical thinking, and those things have to do with basically a storyline that allows us to line up a bunch of facts on top of, say, a clothesline. And so we learn what the theory is, and then out of that theory we understand the world around us and all those subsidiary facts. So we don't have to memorize the facts, we just learn the theory. So that being said, it is still important for you to talk to your peers, because from where I'm sitting, you might call me an expert, and I have a particular view of the world that is necessarily different than yours. Your peers have a viewpoint that is much closer to yours, and I don't want to be obtuse or incomprehensible, but sometimes I will be. That is just the nature of communication. And without the two-way communication that we normally have in a face-to-face class, it is going to be much more difficult for me to understand that confusion on your part and try to alleviate it. So discussions between you and me and between you and your peers are necessary. Again, this is not a distance education course. It is an online course. And the difference is that there's supposed to be communication between the community here. All right. That being said, there's a number of things I would like to point out that we're going to be going to in the next sessions in this introductory thing. And one of them is the discussion sections and the other things that we're going to be doing on a per-week basis. Typically, I want you to be prepared to talk about, and when I mean talk, I'm talking about the discussion sessions, so you're going to be typing away. So I want you to be prepared. So on a particular week, we would have a chapter of interest coming out of the book. Say, for example, gravity. Okay? So you would come in and you would see on the requirements that there is going to be a set of vocabulary words that are associated with that particular chapter, and you would be expected to write out in your handwriting, not copy and pasting using a computer texting machine, but writing out in your handwriting the vocabulary word and its definition 3 times. Now, it's been my experience from learning how to fix people on ski patrol that the more senses you bring to bear to a learning problem, the better off you're going to be. So in this regard, it's important for us to learn the vocabulary words for the simple reason that we need a common set, a common vocabulary that we can speak to about these ideas. As an example, what do we mean by acceleration when we're doing a car, when we're driving a car? Do we mean that we're actually changing speed, or we're changing direction, or we're going at speed, or at velocity? Just what do those words mean in our vernacular when we are just commonly speaking to each other? In terms of a physicist or an astronomer, those words have specific and different meanings. Velocity and speed are 2 different things. Velocity has direction. Speed does not. If I change direction, that is an acceleration. Necessarily, I'm changing speed in one direction and altering the speed in another direction. So these words are different in the context that we're going to be using them. So vocabulary words are the first thing that you're going to be looking at on a per week basis in conjunction with reviewing the text for this particular chapter. There would also be some questions associated with a quiz that will take place in the week following. So you would be looking at this question list, and some fraction of those questions I'll be asking you on a quiz. That quiz is timed about 45 seconds to a minute per question. And so the idea is that I want you to learn the material beforehand. You have the questions available to you. So you learn the material beforehand, and when you are ready, you spend about 10-15 minutes going through the multiple choice questions and getting them done. Okay, so that is the intent. And in my face-to-face classes, this is the same thing I do for them. I just provide the multiple choice questions and, display it for, 45 seconds to a minute on the screen. All right, so you would have the question list, you'd have the vocabulary word, you've read the chapter, then you would have a discussion with your peers and with me. What was the most interesting topic? What didn't you believe? What did you believe? What was boring? What wasn't boring? And then you would elicit some responses from your peers, and you would respond to what they thought was interesting. Just agreeing with somebody is not a reasonable answer. Use the journalistic questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. If you thought something was interesting, why did you think it was interesting? How was it interesting? How did this change your view of the world? All those things matter. And I want you to think about that, and through that we will learn this material. So once you get done with the discussion session, then we would then have the quiz, the homework. There are homework problems assigned, and then there's this thing called Stellarium, which is also assigned. Now all of this stuff is assigned. Okay, I don't want to frighten you right away. There are lots of ways of getting points in this class. So I think there's something on the order of 7 different things that we can go through and earn points on. But not all of them are going to be to your liking. Hopefully find something that is to your liking and you stick to it. Or you explore other avenues of learning. Okay? So that being said, the next topic that I want to get to is the first discussion session, I believe, which is to introduce ourselves. So I will log off here now, and I'll come up with a new video talking about me. We all like to talk about ourselves. And I'll give you an example of what I'm after in terms of what I call the elevator talk.